Welcome everybody to the launch of the Leeds Poverty Truth Challenge. It's wonderful to see so many people here today. You can see we've kind of taken over the Civic Hall a little bit, and Parks and Gardens have done their stuff here with a Chelsea display. I think it's on their way there. Actually, although this is the launch, the Leeds Poverty Truth Challenge began with an idea about 18 months ago. And it's been championed by the Deputy Leader of Council, Councillor Peter Gruen, and the former Bishop of Ripon and Leeds, who can't be here today because he's retired. So we're going to hear in person from Councillor Gruen and then on film from the Bishop. Thank you.
Well, welcome to the Civic Hall, everybody. Thank you for coming and being witnesses to this specific event. My name is Peter. I was asked to say a few words about myself. I'm a councillor. I have been a councillor for some time. I'm deputy leader and work in the cabinet with the leader, Councillor Keith Wakefield. That's my day job. In terms of today, as Mike was saying, actually, before I came here, I thought Mike and I were performing together on the park bench. And that was a wonderful idea. Instead, I'm standing here to say to you that this has been an incredibly exciting journey for us, because the former Bishop Packer and I both serve on the Communities Partnership Board, and we thought it really was important to be representatives from our respective positions in terms of the politics and the faith in the city or the council and the diocese, and also as ordinary citizens of Leeds. And I think really at the heart of the Leeds Poverty Truth Challenge is coming together to look at difficult and entrenched issues of poverty as ordinary people in this city. People often think they know all too well what poverty is and what they are facing. And people work very hard, I think, in organizations, in agencies, in groups, in businesses, and they do what they can, or they do what they think they can. And people are determined to work together in a new way. So today is about sharing what we know, what we've experienced, and then, most importantly, what we can do. What we can do to fundamentally shift the way we tackle poverty in our city, and to understand more about the real issues and experiences on the day-to-day, in some cases night-to-night basis, of poverty. I think it's fair to say that with this project, we're all taking a risk. Or indeed, the diocese might say, a leap of faith. But the people who've worked here for weeks to come together this evening and talk about their experience, their views, their lives, they have taken a huge leap. They're putting their faith in all of us, that we will listen to the truth, that we will make better decisions. And for politicians like myself, for business leaders and third sector leaders, that we agree to stand up on the issue of poverty, that it is a raw, topical and persistently too often one of the too big and too difficult to handle and put in the bottom drawer subjects because we don't know if we can meet expectations. In fact, we don't even know if we set the right expectations. All of us know that the statistics on poverty are actually increasing in this country and increasing in this city, and increasing in this room. And the example I would want to give is the success of the food banks, that people are proud of actually administering and managing and making sure that there are food banks. But the underlying question surely is, why is there a need for any food banks in the first place? And that we have reached 2014 and need more than 20 food banks in this city can't fill anyone in this room with any degree of happiness or satisfaction. So tonight my role as a co-sponsor to some extent comes to an end, because I hope the event from here on and the experience will take off, and I hope that those people who have listened, the business and civic leaders, will then take on their new roles that they have splendidly agreed to, and that they work and become a challenge team and move us into the next phase. So I am happy to pass the baton on to them. My job principally was, along with Bishop John Packer, to get us to the starting line. After today, our spirit and the spirit of this event must live on to make sure it is successful and that all of us succeed together. Thank you very much.
It's a great privilege to be able to welcome you all here today. The Leeds Poverty Truth Challenge has been one of the highlights of my time in Leeds, and in particular this last year, as we've come to understand a bit more of just what poverty means within our society and within our city. I'm very sorry that I'm unable to be with you today since we retired at the end of last year to the northeast. But you're very much in my thoughts as you seek to explore together just how we can respond to need within our city. It's been good to work with Peter Gruen especially, and to hear some of the powerful stories which you're going to hear tonight as you move on into working together over the coming year and on into the future to tackle the issues of poverty and deprivation. I am particularly grateful to those of you who have been prepared to share your own experiences of poverty and just how difficult that has been for so many of you. That brings a reality to the world in which we live. And I know that people are looking forward to hearing from you and also engaging with you in just what can be done in order to provide support for you in the lives which you live and in those whom you yourselves support. And it's also very good to have here today those who have influence within our city, those who are able to produce pressure and take action so that there can be a coming together of the people of Leeds so that we actually respond to the challenge, so that we work together for a society where there is greater equality and where we do all that we can to tackle the issues of deprivation.
If you were to applaud him, he probably wouldn't hear from the northeast, so that's fine. So I'm Mike, and I'm one of the team that's been working with the Poverty Truth Challenge, and I've never tried to do a speech on one of these things before, but anyway. It's been my privilege to work with the team, with the group of people whose stories you're going to hear today. They've been meeting together for the last 4 or 5 months to talk about their experiences of poverty, and at no stage have we attempted to define what poverty means. There's been a lot of laughter, some tears, lots of eating together. Some of that journey that they have taken has been recorded, captured, that are on the boards out on the landing, and they're really powerful. And so I encourage you during the break to have a look at them. All the words that are on there are the words of the people that we're calling the testifiers. They're giving evidence today of their experience. And the amazing setting for this, by the way, which looks very expensive, and it probably is thanks to the generosity and support of Logistic. So thank you very much to Logistic. Each of you has been given a brick, which is in your program. And after the presentation, we'll each take a moment to fill out that brick to say what our response is and what our commitment is to engage with issues of poverty in the city. And then out in the foyer there is a brick wall, and we'll stick our bricks to the wall as a symbol of building a city that really is the best city for all its citizens. We will then break for tea and cake when you'll get a chance to talk to the people that you've heard and to look at those display boards. After that, we're going to come back in here and hear from the civic and business leaders who have agreed to join the challenge and hear their response. We've asked you here to be witnesses and supporters of the challenge journey that begins in earnest today. It takes real courage to stand up here and do what these people are about to do. And so we ask you to communicate both with mouth and thumb sensitively. This isn't a performance. These are people's lives that you're going to be hearing. And finally, a little bit about Leeds Poverty Truth Challenge. Poverty doesn't just happen. And the widening gap between richest and poorest isn't simply inevitable. We in the challenge don't have any clever ideas about how to address poverty. Our big idea is simply this: no lasting social change happens without the people who suffer under the status quo taking a lead in bringing about the change to that status quo. The strapline that we're using is nothing about us without us is for us. So the challenge brings together experts by experience of poverty and people we've called civic and business leaders to see what might happen when their resources, experience and wisdom are combined. That's the gap that the challenge aims to work in. And of course, this is only one of a number of initiatives in the city at the moment that are really seriously engaging with issues of poverty in the city. And finally, a word about today's testifiers. We did a lot of outreach, and the people you see here today are the people who had the courage to stand up, to say how it is, and the commitment to join in the challenge. Are these the only people with stories about poverty in Leeds? No. Do they represent all of poverty in Leeds? No. Are they representative of poverty in Leeds? Maybe. But enough from me. The group of people you're about to hear from are far more eloquent than I can be. I'm not quite sure which group I'm feeling the most nervous for, but I think it's probably you on the front row.
Do you know what it is? It's not like I don't want to do anything. I have dreams.
It's not what you can't do, it's what you can do.
And we have to be positive in all our movements forward, because remember, from acorns grow mighty trees.
I don't just want a load of money. I want to sort this out.
I want empathy, not sympathy.
Well, that's a good thing to carry feelings for each other, because you know in yourself that's how you can move forward and invoke community.
I've tried sorting this out, but I just don't know who to talk to.
Through some of the hardest times, I've had the most beautiful moments.
But that's the strength of togetherness, right? Because love doesn't cost anything, but is more valuable than money. And together, with love and unity, we must go forward.
I'm not one of those. There's lies at the heart of it all.
Some of the most generous people are the poorest. I care about others, not just me.
Righteous.
Just being heard is really important. Our words are falling on deaf ears. Hello? Hello?
Hi, my name's Anna, and this is my story. I am a mother of 4 children, 3 daughters, 1 son. When my son Sasha was 2, I was advised by nursery staff he had special needs. They wanted him to be assessed and maybe statement him. I was not happy about him labelled, as I saw no issues with him. In fact, I saw quite the opposite, and I didn't let it go ahead. They tried telling me that he couldn't do a basic jigsaw, but at home he had no problem. It transpired he just didn't want to do the same one twice. His speech was a bit slow, so we settled on getting him speech therapy and left it at that. When he was at primary school, he was very mentally active. He completed schoolwork in record time, then would fidget as he was bored. They decided to keep him busy by giving him more advanced work. He achieved high stats results a year early. He went on to an inner city high school that had major debt issues. The school were made aware of Sasha's academic ability, and they said they would take this into account. During the first 3 months, on almost a daily basis, I was contacted because he had done something silly. Attending his first parents' evening, all the staff said there was something wrong with him, but one teacher in particular called him a genius. She said in all her years of teaching, she had never seen anything so amazing as a piece of work he had produced. She advised that Sasha be educationally assessed. The assessor concluded that Sasha, then aged 11, as well as being dyspraxic, had an academic ability of a 16-year-old and recommended he have some one-to-one tuition to occupy his mind and help his silly behaviour. In reality, the lack of resources in the school meant that Sasha didn't receive any support. He was repeatedly suspended, isolated, and eventually by the age of 12, he had been permanently excluded. During the months leading up to Sasha's exclusion, his father and I separated, and I had to be away from Leeds looking after my mum as she was terminally ill. The day my mum passed away was the day I was told my house had burnt down. Something inside me died that day. I asked the school to take our home circumstances into account, but they didn't seem to hear me. He was referred to a pupil enhancement programme where he found work tedious, made new friends, and learnt new ways of entertaining himself. I believe the combination of lack of stimulation and rejection from school led him down a very dark road. He was now at home full-time, educationally sidelined. I was employed and my work involved running a drop-in for women working on Spencer Place. I am a survivor of street prostitution. I had to give up trying to better myself and show my kids that we could turn our life around, as I had to stay at home and parent my son now alone. I began to look at him as a burden, a problem, an inconvenience. I had no fight left. I was still grieving and trying to settle after losing our home. My head was a mess, and so was his. We had no support. Then Sasha took upon an opportunity and joined a group of disaffected kids who learned to express themselves through listening to classical music and opera. Please listen carefully to what the group of 12-year-olds created. The children were respected, encouraged, felt human, and felt special. In that moment, I felt supported and proud, but I also felt that he had been failed, not only by myself, but by the education system. What a shame the system was unable to break the chain and support the work of such a young, good, bright mind. Sasha, now 23, has been in and out of jail since the age of 16. Recently, I stood alone at the Old Bailey to get him off a wrongly given IPP sentence. Damaged socially, he has no understanding of how things work on the outside. Bearing 2 scars, stabbed whilst rehabilitating. People will point their fingers at me, blaming me for who he has become. But I have to ask, is it all my fault? We have to work together and think about the ripple effect. Lack of finance is one thing, but lack of understanding and truth, looking at the bigger picture, is another thing altogether. Here is a film that I've made. It's just highlighting the words that the kids said when they were at school.
On the street, watching time, going by. We ain't even 2 whole weeks. could wear designer mates.
Hey, Mr. Please, can I lend some change? Then our lives can rearrange.
If our lives are rearranged, we could have a fresh start.
Me and you are not really that far apart.
If our lives are rearranged, we could start again. We could get away from all the misery and pain.
On the streets with a warm fireplace, bed and sheets.
Fish and chips, tomato dips, chicken and rice is really nice. PlayStation 2 is dark and new. We want to have one just like you. One day we'll win and you will lose. You think you can lay down all the rules? At least we're free cause we're not fools. A whole life ahead, just like you.
Every single night when I go to sleep, I dream of the things that I really need. Trying to picture having a nice family with people who really want to care about me. I can imagine coming home and being greeted by my mum. I can imagine the place with love and it's filled with fun. I can imagine my dad now is proud of his son. I can imagine the streets united as one.
Faded paths are not only for the posh. My parents' requirements were sugar and spice, but the recipe was slightly faulty. I came with less spice and compressed nice, but ample quality puppy dog's tails. Result, a study into advanced DNA research. Trials to be repeated daily from babyhood. Cost was free to all but me. Modus operandi was fists and rages. My head was the target, in and out, where no divulging marks would show. No social workers, no one came. To help, to save, to love, to hold me. Change. Hope died. Family concept, too, to be replaced by cages of barricades. When I didn't break, only skirmished, open season was declared. Home, schools, church, all played. Why am I the only target everywhere? Teacher, no one play with her. Reason, challenging authority at 6. It can only be earned. None were worthy. Question, what is a human being? To be in the image of those who hurt me? Change. I am animal, not human. I run alone. Expect nothing. My job was to survive till I could leave. The burden to learn to live in a human forest. My change. Abandoned, expecting friends. Habituated, feeling no emotions except anger. My pieces of self couldn't blend in unity. Many years will pass, only parts of me survives. Homelessness, on and off, over a decade. Homelessness was the cost of drugs needed to subdue the raging wounds so I can take myself into a group and get up. Many street drugs, much counseling later, slowly have quit howling at the moon. My pieces of self are reassembled. Life, home, future are good, on target. Change! The tape comes unglued. Toes stop moving. Walk becomes weird. Nobody gives answers. When did? Shit! Functional neurological disorder, FND, means mind to body, I have a software failure. So bit by bit, I lose myself. I'm on strike. Need a shrink. Many sufferers abused kids. The nightmare has returned in 3D. Told counseling will help symptoms. Need to face nightmare places. Swore never. Lost in my past. Cutting again. Dulls fear. Change. Seeing things. Asked if dead. No, unfortunately. Torture still proceeding. Change. Don't think I'm going to make it. NHS, no help. As crowds, bad thing. Number they gave me to call when needed makes me feel I'm wasting their time. Alcohol, slice and dice, and counseling. Pieces come together, a block at a time. Bottomless well, told, throw something in. Jesus at hand, worked, bottom formed. Grain by grain, well becomes pond. Then large puddle. Change, mind good. FND still getting worse. Legacy of the hits, street drugs used. Whatever, no longer psychiatric. Joy of it, accepted as just neurological. Doesn't make me walk, breathe, pee, grasp, or anything else better. At least I can reassure the doctors original wounds were just on my head. Homelessness also has a legacy, a quiet strength, a hidden family, all homeless, past and present, a way of seeing people that swiftly assesses the risk someone poses, then goes beneath the surface, sees them, change from survivor to get by to human.
I was an asylum seeker who fled from my country at the age of 17 years because I was prostituted by my family. I was forced into marriage when I was 14 to an old man who had 3 wives. Guinea is a Muslim country, and everyone expected me to follow the rules of Islam. My parents and my husband, wife, used to beat me, and I had to do all the housework. I was very interested in Christianity, which made my family angry with me because they did not want me to be a Christian. They treated me badly. One day, when I had been beaten very badly, I ran to my auntie, who later made an arrangement for me to leave. I did not leave the country. I did not have the chance to take my children. I have to leave them behind. The agent told me his involvement would finish the minute we arrived at our final destination. He left me alone. I was tired, hungry, confused, and lost. The agent had left me at the Home Office building without explaining to me where we were. I thought he had sold me into slavery. As I stood there crying, a good person took pity on me and directed me to the reception area. The Home Office provided me an interpreter, and I began to tell my story. Seeking asylum turned out to be a struggle. I had hoped that I had come to a place of sanctuary, where I would be treated with kindness and compassion. Instead, I was met with a wall of suspicion and contempt. I felt that my feeling from Guinea I had in fact leapt out of the frying pan into the fire. I spent 6 years living in virtual destitution. The house that I was placed in had flies and bed bugs. Every morning this pit would be bloated with our blood, and every night the mice would rejoice over the bits of food we had saved for the following day. The fridge was broken and merely served as a decoration item. As we were not allowed to work, we could not afford the service of a pest controller. The other challenge that I faced was having to survive on vouchers rather than cash. I was given £35 supermarket voucher per week. Unfortunately, the supermarkets were far from where I live, so I had to walk great distance to get my food. I was also forced to spend the entire voucher in one go because the supermarket was not allowed to give me chance from the voucher. These shops were quite expensive and did not stock food that I was familiar with, unlike the local shops. This was a form of embarrassment because I was not free to shop where and when I wanted, nor was I free to buy what I wanted. Waiting for the Home Office to make decision on my case was quite hellish. For months on end, I would wait in anguish only to be devastated by a letter of refusal, and I would have to begin the appeal process all over again. Coping with the hardship that I have listed and the fear of deportation had a detrimental effect on my emotional and mental well-being in the company of others. I would laugh, but I was bleeding inside. A convoy of thought and fears ran through my mind night and day. Harrow and anointed burned in, but there was no extinguishers to put water the flames. I lost my teenager years. I had miles the opportunity to be young and carefree. However, I am grateful for the love and support that was given to me by many individuals and organizations such as Solace. It's thanks to them that I look forward to the future with joy and optimism. I am now enrolled in college, doing my best to pick up the pieces of my shattered youth. I want to thank God for his faithfulness to me, and also thank to Solace, who have been my lifeline, and thank Children's Society and St. George's Church. Thank you for listening to my story. Once again, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Andrew, and I'm part of the team that's putting together the Poverty Truth Challenge. It's my privilege this afternoon to introduce you to two of my friends, Steve and Mary. Steve.
Sorry, excuse me, sorry.
It's all right. Just tell us a bit about yourself, Steve.
Yeah, well, sorry, excuse me, the voice I've got here. Maybe nerves, I don't know, but my name's Steve, I'm 55 in March. I know I don't look it, but don't shower once. But, and you'll notice by my accent, I'm not from Yorkshire. I chose Yorkshire, I'm not from it. And I came to Leeds 9 years ago on a day return ticket. Now I keep wondering, will I get that refund on the return part? Maybe not.
Excellent. Mary, what about you? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Steve's my ex-neighbour, and he used to live in my area, which over the years has seen so many changes. It's been through bad times. It's now, fortunately, I think we're on the way up, but obviously our beautiful old terrace homes are different now, and that's how I met Steve, because Steve lived in a HMO, and a lot of people around us were really hungry. The people I said good morning to every morning were hungry. There was down, low, hungry. So the group I'm in decided that instead of just giving them food, we'd all share and cook a meal together and eat a meal together. And Steve came along to the meal and told us about what life was like for him in the HMO.
Okay, Thanks. Mary, whereabouts is that in Leeds?
Cross Green.
Okay, so that's in Cross Green.
Yeah.
So, Steve, you were living in Cross Green.
I was, yeah.
And you were going to these meals. How did you end up going to those meals?
Well, it was completely by accident. I was in a shop. I'll get to it now, I won't ramble. I was in a shop buying a newspaper, looking for an escape out of the HMO, basically. And it was someone in the shop that told me about it, and I went to it, a little pensive, but I went, and great, I met people, to talk to people, people were talking to me, but prior to going to that meal, I didn't know anyone. And I felt, I might as well be in Armley, locked up 24/7, because that's the way I was living, keeping myself locked in, closing the curtains, I wouldn't open them. If anyone knocked at the door, I wouldn't even answer it, because I was so nervous and frightened where I was living. Yeah. But I'd come from a terraced house across the rail link, which was in East End Park. I'm not trying to be geographical, but it is across a rail link. And that house was sold by my ex-landlord to a new person, and the new people did not want rental residents who rented. So an amicable agreement came and I had to leave within a month. So I needed somewhere fast, and I couldn't afford the Ritz or the Holiday Inn or anything like that. So I contacted someone I knew I used to work in the crypt as a volunteer helping people. I mean, I'm not big-headed or anything, because it was not easy, and it isn't easy. What they do is remarkable. But it was someone there that got me in touch with this HMO. And the way I was described to me, that it was a flat. When I got to it, it was actually a bedsit. Well, of course, Cross Green is bedsit land, or that's what it's becoming. Wait and see what happens when the incinerator opens and properties drop through the floor. We'll see. But that's, again, the government and various other people's decision, not mine.
Okay. So you were living in one of the HMOs, a house of multiple occupancy?
That's right.
Okay. And you started doing these meals for people?
Yeah.
What's it like to live in an area where there seems to be people coming in and moving out and all that kind of stuff?
I think now that with the meals, and if we've hopefully from today people listen, and people may live in a HMO, but if they do allow them a little bit more space, not just the so tiny space that they've got to live in at the moment that they're allowed on the rent, if they give them a little bit more space, I think it'll stop the area being so transitional, because we've got a good community. We are families that live in between HMOs, but we know that the people have to live somewhere, and they're very nice people, and the community's strong, and they're caring for the people, and they've got respect. We've all got respect for each other. So from this, we're hoping to build on it and bring back Cross Green to what it was, a thriving community. No matter if there's an incinerator there or whatever, we are very hopeful that we are on the up. And from today, I hope people listen, and then we don't have to get up in the morning and say good morning to people knowing that they're hungry. It's so sad, and there's such nice people, and they've so much to give to our community, we've found, as from week to week, that they've got skills. They may have had a blip and left them behind, but the skills are there. We just need to build the confidence again.
Fantastic. The great thing about both of you, getting to know you more, is that despite some of the things that life's thrown at you, you are still so hopeful. So thank you so much. Let's give Steve and Mary a round of applause. Thank you.
Hi. I'm supposed to sit on the park bench and tell you my plans. I want to have my own craft business, teaching, making, selling traditional crafts. And then I'm supposed to move to the grey chair and tell you the barriers that I face. I tried to get out of it, and I spent a couple sleepless nights worrying about what I'd say. Just a couple minutes of my life. But everything I thought to say just didn't seem right. I asked myself, if I could say anything, what would I say? And this is it. I'm an alcoholic. If I could say anything, it's not important how I became one. But I drank and used drugs. Then started working on the streets of London to pay for my addiction. I crawled my way out, and I got a job as a receptionist in a Salvation Army hostel. 8 years later, I'd worked my way up to being a duty manager. Then I was suspended because I have a mental illness. They said having a mental illness makes me a danger and a threat to staff and clients, and my job ended. I tried another job running a day centre for Mind, but that lasted 6 months. The damage had been done, and I had no confidence left. One evening, I returned to the street. A piece of scum like me was only fit for one thing. I picked up a client. I won't go into details because human beings shouldn't hear the things I went through. Needless to say, after 3 days, they let me go. No one says it out loud, but we all think it. I wasn't meant to come out of that alive. But I did. Personally, I think the men realised it's harder to kill a human being than you think. I've lost friends to drugs, alcohol and suicide, but I'm still here. I keep getting knocked down, but for some reason, I keep getting back up. Someone asked me recently what poverty was, and I said it's a lack of something. I have a lack of self-worth that is so large. I used to sleep on the floor because I didn't think I deserved a bed. So the thought of me standing here and telling you my business plans is crazy. I keep thinking people who know me will be laughing inside. You, self-employed, what can you do? Who do you think you are? Last year I got myself a teaching qualification. I teach a little craft class once a fortnight at Inkwell, and I've started a weekly crochet class at Hobbycraft. I love teaching. And although it's hard for someone like me to admit, I think I'm good at it. I want to do a lot more teaching. I want to get paid to teach advanced craft classes to people who can afford to pay. Then use the profits to run craft classes to those who can't afford it, or those who, like me, thought they weren't good enough to learn a skill. I volunteer for Joanna. We go out at night and meet the street prostitutes. I love these women. I see myself in some of them, and I get the chance to see how far I've come. Imagine how great it would be if I could teach the women how to make things to sell instead of their bodies. I used to have a craft stall at the farmers market until the council doubled the rent for Christmas, and I ended up working for free. I've since rethought my craft stall idea. I've written several patterns, had them published. I've started making my own craft kits. I like the old crafts, spinning, lace making, knitting, skills that could be lost if we don't keep them going. I spin my own wool. I'm covered in it at the minute. I can talk for hours about wool, but I won't. I make lace, even though it's not in fashion anymore. Can you imagine someone selling their own wool and spinning it in the centre of Leeds? Leeds, the home of spinning wool. I have ideas and plans, and since I don't seem to have the ability to give up on life, I will get there. It'd be nice if money was available to start my own business. Just 6 months of benefit, and that would be enough. But in the meantime, I will keep working on things, learning new skills, improving my teaching, writing more patterns, and selling wool, one ball at a time. Someone once told me, someone at Leeds Mind, that I couldn't be self-employed with a mental illness. At the time, I accepted it and gave up on my dream. They're not here today. Maybe I should have invited them, but their boss is. My old school gym teacher used to say, if Maggie Thatcher can run the country on her period, you can do gym class on yours. And if Paula Radcliffe can run a marathon with asthma, I just have one thing to say to those people who say you can't run a business with a mental illness. You just watch me.
In 2009, I encountered my first sanction after I failed to attend a job centre appointment. Although provingly looking for work in any kind of job, the result was a week's worth of benefits lost. Fortunately, I had enough food in my cupboard to support me through the period. The sanction made no sense in what it was in aid of. The second time around, I received a sanction for misinformation from 2 different training courses, which was part of the work programmes the job centre sent us on. After an hour-long phone call, it was agreed I could go on the music course, so I dismissed myself from the training course. Both courses run by the job centre. I then went to inform the job centre advisor. She said I was wrong and sanctioned me for making my career choice. This is where life became hell. The sanction was much longer than the first one, and once my food ran out, I requested a crisis loan, but wouldn't give me one because I was on a sanction, and said the only way to get one was the case of an earthquake or such other occurrence. I knew this second things would really get hard for me. As hunger set in and worsened, I was told I had to go back to the work training programme. While still receiving no funds, the hunger was so unbearable that one day I couldn't arrive due to the lack of energy, thus gaining an all-new sanction. With nowhere to go or anybody to turn to, I had no choice but to shoplift a sandwich from the supermarket shelf. Believing it was the only way for my own survival. I used to be a prolific criminal, burgling houses and selling people's cars. I didn't want to let them win and send me back to prison, especially as the only way was crime. But I tried so hard to get out of it. You ask why? Didn't I just get a job? Then, well, yes, I went to job interviews. If you'd ever seen a starving man, put them next to the zombie, you wouldn't tell the difference. Put them next to a healthy man, and who do you think will get the job? And then say, I did get a job. I would have to work a week in hand through famine until I actually got paid. I still can't understand how that works, or how anybody could work under such conditions. Police then began to pull me aside in the street, accusing me of having drugs upon my person, although I have never been or never will know be known for such a thing, having constant arguments with public, my parents and police, implying I'm on heavy drugs because of my image, which was very traumatizing and made me very unsociable. I lost my home, friends, family, life, hope, future prospects, and faith in my own government. The event was so traumatizing, I feel I have long-term mental issues that came just after these reoccurring events of sanctions, starvation. I was searching for work, Others are being starved whilst looking for work, unable to look for work. You then call us lazy whilst being starved to death, creating a bubble around job seekers who are going through real poverty in such a rich country. This is not a solution to a problem that involves money and debt, and will only lead to such things as revolts and sunder in the coming future. Any questions?
That's my son, and this is my story. Esau is my youngest child of 7, and as you can see, he's good at gymnastics. He started doing this in the after-school club. After a couple of months, the coach told me he was too good and to take him to Scotthall Sports Centre, which I did. The cost of this was a lot. I got 20% discount with the Leeds Extra card. And no shopping that week, but that was for a term, so I could put a bit away each week. A few months later, I was asked to take him to the Armley Sports Centre, 8:30 on a Sunday morning. Not bad. When the day was done, I was shocked to find that he had come third, I didn't even know it was a competition. Wow, my son's really doing good at this. Then the coach told me he needs to go to Leeds Gymnastic Club. He needs more than we have for him here, so off she sent us. I was just thinking, wow. The Olympic Games had just finished, and I heard that the government would give to the kids so that they could excel at sports. This was to give the everyday child a chance, as we have a lot of talent out there. A lot of this talent is from disadvantaged families, low income, unemployment, and single parent families. Now I am faced with yearly insurance, monthly payments, bus fares, as well as competition fees and travel costs. Right now he's training, so hopefully he will go into the elite tumbling group. At the moment he's also doing the novice group, men's artistics, and this is what he's doing here. One class went to 2 classes and the monthly payments go up. The club tracksuit and leotard. Shopping gets less and less till it stops. Lucky for me, I know about cornflour gravy and making things stretch. How to get 3 family meals out of 1 chicken, a roast, fried rice and a soup. So with 2 classes and 9 hours a week, only just doing it. Then told he needs extra classes, goes to 11.5 hours a week, cost goes up. How much was this going to be? When I was told, I sat down and cried. How am I going to do that? Then I thanked God because the metro bus fares had been lowered. So from £19.50 a week, it went to £14 a week, which I was saving for competitions and travel costs, but this would cover the cost of the extra class. So why is this door still closed? Because the government give to who? Schools to spend as they liked, specialised coaches, extra equipment, sporting organisations and community sports. What happens to the children that need to move to elite sporting groups and their parents can't afford? Not even to send them to a sports centre. These children are missing out, and so is this country.
What now? Here we go again.
I think they've got it in for me.
What'd they do?
I'm going to be sick.
God, I hate this place.
Am I in the right place? I don't want to be here.
I'm too tired for work. That was a pleasant lunch.
I'm fed up with sob stories. I hear them all day and every day.
Lies, lies, lies and statistics.
Is he going to be on time? Here comes another one.
Does he even want to work?
I bet he's not filled his form in.
I'd like to sign on, please.
Has he got his ID?
Did you join job match? Has he got an up-to-date CV? Does he have all his evidence?
Look, there's only so much I can do. Can I please see your paperwork?
If someone believes that living on benefits is a lifestyle choice, then we need to make them think again.
I've got it together now. I know I can do this.
I've read various things and I know what I'm entitled to.
I can work.
I've got all I's crossed and T's dotted.
Hope. Some encouragement today.
You are in the right place. I do want to be here.
There must be a different way of doing this. I'd like to speak to the person in charge, please.
Who wants to speak to the boss?
Nice to put a face to the name.
Nice to finally meet you.
It's been an honour and a privilege to be working with this group and this team for the last 6 months. We've laughed together, we've cried together, we've shared some important moments. Now in one sentence, guys, we're going to share what we want for the rest of the year and the year to come. My word is understanding. Hopefully there'll be understanding working on both sides.
My word is poor in spirit, and I'm here to help people who are poor in spirit.
I want to change myself.
I want to see investment and sustainable change.
I think everybody should be given a chance.
I'm not just here for change. I'm here to make better communities.
I want to see things go from can't do to staggering change.
Opportunity, the opportunity to show my worth.
Experience. I want everybody to experience a better life.
My hope is to help others.
My word is trust in the community.
My word is also experience.
My word is listening. We want everyone to hear what we have to say. Thank you.
I'm Catherine, and I too have been part of the group that's had the privilege of working on the Poverty Truth Challenge up to tonight. Today is a pivotal point in our journey. We've all heard the testifiers telling their stories. We've heard their voices. Alongside the preparation of the testifiers, civic and business leaders have been gathered, and they've just been meeting in the other room. Before coming today, they committed to working with the Poverty Truth Challenge for a year. We're not here tonight about quick fixes, but we're looking to see how things might change in the long term. But now we're going to hear some personal reflections from the meeting that happened in the Ark Royal Room.
Thank you. Anna, I bet you never thought you'd be sat on a park bench in a building like this with the head of policing in Leeds. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Anna, I think the first thing that we would like to say is thank you very much for having the courage to stand up in front of these very bright lights and do what you've just done. And that obviously is something we'd extend to everybody in the group. Actually, if we would have been left alone in there, we'd still be there talking about all the issues that came to us. The only question we really have to think about is, what did you feel? I think we'd still be there now if it wasn't for the fact that we needed to come in and people do need to hear what we've got to say. It was very thought-provoking and very stark. How did it feel for you, seeing a police officer and civic leaders in front of you?
I think as time's gone on, we've tried to break down that barrier with ourselves mentally. Yeah. So we're just seeing ourselves as people versus people. We haven't had the power divide. I think that's something we've worked quite high on.
Yeah.
And like you say, the lights are bright. We couldn't really see much, so they did help us to a certain degree. It's just the bright lights. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I thought the message was incredibly clear. What I picked up personally was a sense of isolation, at least at some stage, in terms of every story we heard today, and a disconnection. And actually, each of you, in different respects, ending up in that position of isolation for totally different reasons, complicated reasons. But this isn't necessarily about money. This is just about connection. And I used an analogy in the conversation we had in there about if with all of you, if you can show me the first rung on the ladder, you just watch me go. And the lady over there who talked about running a business almost just summed it up in terms of what I was thinking. Show me the path, and you can let me get on with it. So that was a really powerful thing for me personally. In terms of other feelings, we all sort of agreed with the same ones. There was a sense of empathy and, if I'm honest, some sympathy. Self-esteem certainly appears to be an issue. And each of us, in one way or another, was emotionally affected by the stories that we heard. And one on top of the other, on top of the other. And one of our group talked about, actually, what must it be like for you living in poverty as a group and as individuals, and what a daily grind things must be, the drip, drip, drip effect. And yet, within you as individuals and within you as a group, what we saw was a really powerful community, little community. You bonded together, and we were thinking, well, you know what, we can bond together to work with you, to show you the first rung on the ladder. Maybe we'll show you the second rung on the ladder, but actually, each and every one of you has massive potential that this city needs to realise. And that, I think, in many respects, sums up where we got to. And we'd still be talking about all those things now, I can assure you. I tell you what I am. I'm in public service, not because it pays well, it doesn't pay that well, but because I want to be in public service and I want to help people, and that's why I joined the police. And actually, I think there's a responsibility on all of us to work as coherently as we can together to get you and people like you where you deserve to be. And I'm on the journey, we're all on the journey, and I think that just about sums up where I'm at and where we're at as a group of people. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
It's nice to be heard. We have formed a bond, and we look forward to working with you over the next year. I think it's going to be pretty exciting, so I hope you're ready for us.
I better be.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming, but actually, thank you for witnessing. We've used the word witness quite a lot. We've used the word testifying tonight. And as these people embark on this journey over the next year, we want you to be the witnesses. We want you to hold them accountable, actually. And we will be using all kinds of communication, thumb, mouth, whatever, to do that. And so please ask these people, how's it going? What are you learning? What's changing? Yeah? And maybe up to a year from now, we'll be back in this room to tell you what's happened with this Leeds Poverty Truth Challenge.